and welcome to Government and Politics 100, Section 725. Here's what we're going to do today. I'm going to do a little bit of intro. I'm going to talk about myself a little bit, who I am, why I'm here, and then we will do the syllabus. We'll go through all of that. We're going to talk a little bit about how this course will be laid out. We will use Discord, we will use Brightspace. I'll show you both of those things. From there, we're going to do our first lecture, and that will be it. Now, typically, obviously, this class is in person. I've only ever taught this class in person, so doing it online is a transition for me. I'm learning. Hopefully, you can bear with me while I do. Usually, we would get through a lecture on like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So it would take a full week of classes to get through one lecture, one PowerPoint. Since this is asynchronous and you're doing this all on your own time, I'm just going to give you the whole thing in one big video. And you can do with it as you wish. You can watch it in one full section. You can break it up. The only expectation of you in terms of that is that you do finish it by the end of the week. I think the end of the week is Friday. I don't want to be doing anything on the weekends. If you want to watch a lecture on a Saturday, that's your discretion. You do you. I don't recommend it, but whatever works best. Just so you are prepared for the next week when the next lecture starts. I will have these uploaded by Monday morning. So usually I'll probably get them uploaded on a Sunday. That's what I plan to do with this one. Most of them will be like that. If not on Monday, I will never upload them later than that unless there is a serious problem or something wild is happening, and I will, of course, be in touch if that is the case. If it gets later than like Wednesday, we're just going to skip that lecture. I'm not going to give you 2 days to do it, so you'll have the full week. So they might be a little longer. Like I said, usually they do take 3 full class times. Now they're just going to be 1 full lecture, 1 recording, and do with that however works best for you. So my name's Kayla Fisher. You can call me whatever you want. Call me Kayla, call me Miss Fisher, whatever. I'm not a doctor, so you don't have to call me doctor. I prefer that you didn't. I have been teaching this course for 3 or 4 full semesters now. I was a TA for this course for 4 semesters as well in my master's program. So I've done this for quite some time. I like to think I'm pretty good at it. I got my undergraduate degree at the Ohio Northern. I have a bachelor's in history in poli-sci, and then I have a minor in literature. From there, I went right to my master's program at the University of Akron. I got my master's in applied politics, started teaching this class. I worked in campaigns for a couple of years, and now I'm actually in Oregon at the University of Oregon getting my PhD. That's why this class is virtual. Unfortunately, I am unavailable for any in-person anything. I can't meet with you. I am across the country. I'm also, because of that, in a different time zone. So I am 3 hours behind you. Shouldn't matter much, except for if you are messaging on the Discord at 9 a.m. It's 6 a.m. my time. I'm not awake. I'm going to try to get back to you as soon as I can. Probably not at 6 a.m. But I will be in touch. You can also use my email. My University of Akron email is listed first. I also list my University of Oregon email. I prefer that you use the Akron email just to keep things sectioned, but if for some reason you can't reach me or I'm not responding, we also have the Discord or my Oregon email. Those are both available to you. I have a cat. She does not like doors being closed. She may frequently meow. I may have to get up and let her in or out every so often. She did move across the country with me. We moved about a month ago. She's not a fan of road trips. It was a bit of a difficult trip, but it was fun nonetheless. If you have any questions, let me know. that's about it. That's all I got. I do have a couple of tattoos you might see. I talk with my hands a lot. I have a little stack of books right here, and I have a cute little ghost right here. So, if you see those, that's what they are. I like to read. I like to write. I'm very politically active. I still also keep my job in campaigns. So, I am very busy. I'm teaching this class. I'm doing my PhD full time, and I'm still working in campaigns. I do political fundraising. Um, that's what I've got going on. That's about it. That's all I got. So now we're going to do the syllabus. We'll go through this, talk about class a little bit, what it looks like, the expectations. From there, we're going to talk about Discord and Brightspace, and then we'll get into the lecture. So I'm not going to do the whole PowerPoint or the whole syllabus. I'm just going to pick out bits and pieces. This is uploaded to Brightspace. You can access it anytime that you feel the need to, for questions, concerns. I do not have set office hours, mainly because of the time change, because I have classes, because I have meetings with clients. So if you need to set up a meeting, we do that by appointment. Again, we also have the Discord server. I plan to use this more informally, more generic, I guess I would say. I hope that we can have discussions over it. The way I like to set up this class is we obviously have lecture, but once students get comfortable within the next first couple of weeks, we usually start doing current events to start off the class. And then we get into really fun class days where there is no lecture and we just talk about crazy things that are happening in politics or the news. We have some debates. Obviously, because of the nature of this class, we can't do that. I hope that our Discord can be used for that. However, I expect and I hope that it will not be abused. The COVID policy doesn't apply much here, but if you're having health issues, please let me know. Very basic level government. We're going to talk about principles, ideas, institutions, and the processes. This is obviously a lecture-based class. I hope we can have discussions. There are no prerequisites. We will be using APA method for all of our essays. I will have a lecture on it. I will also have a PowerPoint on it. I will teach you how to use it. But I recommend that you look at it beforehand and familiarize yourself. I will take off points if you are citing things wrong or not using it correctly. Additionally, I expect that you will be able to have nuanced and complex discussions with myself and your peers respectfully. This is a 100 level class. It is government. We talk about what government is. We talk about ideological differences. We talk about the political parties. We talk about the bureaucracy. These things are politicized. Current events are politics. The election is happening in November. Things are very polarized right now. And I expect that we can have these conversations professionally and respectfully together. I hope we can learn from them, myself included. If for some reason you are not able to have these discussions, this is not the class for you. Unfortunately, I foster a classroom in which we can talk about things free-spirited, but not disrespectfully. Please let me know if you have questions or if you need to talk through that. This is a lecture-based class. Since it is completely asynchronous, discussions will be facilitated primarily through Discord. Obviously, this is more formal than I would prefer our class would be. I hope that we can have more general, informal, fun discussions on Discord, but if for some reason you feel uncomfortable doing so, we can do this privately through email. We can set up a meeting via Zoom. Just let me know. Again, these discussions will be had respectfully. There will be no disrespect. There will be no disorderly conduct. This can result in a deduction of points. It can also result in removal from the Discord. The Discord is not required. I encourage it. I expect that we all use it. I think students will get a lot out of it, but nothing required will be on it. Everything that you need to know for the class will be on Brightspace, and you will be removed from the Discord if you cannot act accordingly. This is a government and politics course, which means there will be topics that are or have been politicized. The foundation is a general introduction to our institutions, but we should all expect that discussions may be related and relevant to topics which have been more politicized. The basis of a functioning democracy is a citizenry that is not a homogeneous population. We should have differences. I expect we will have differences. Life experiences, opinions, values, and the understanding of the world around us. You will disagree. You'll disagree with yourself, you will disagree with others, you will disagree with myself. Multiple times. You need to handle this professionally. You need to handle this internally or with me. Do not handle this through disrespectful attacks or negative conversation with others. I also expect that you will not disregard another's life experience or their opinions. We meet online on your own accordance. Again, I expect that you have finished that week's lecture by the end of the week. Whether that be Friday for you or Sunday for you, that is up to your own discretion. You should be prepared to start the next lecture on Monday. I plan to upload these on Sunday evening. Might be early Monday for you, depending on the time change. Will never be later than Tuesday. I will never give you less time than you need. And if for some reason an extreme event happens and we can't get this uploaded by like Wednesday, we'll just skip that lecture and readjust later. You will have plenty of time to watch this lecture. But I do expect that you time manage wisely, whatever is most conducive to you. Again, the Discord server is optional. I want to use this for our discussions, for current events. I might send little like, don't forget your homework is due by tomorrow. And I think that would be helpful for you. I recommend you use it. I hope that you do. And I will provide more reminders through Discord, but we will use Brightspace for everything required. You do not need the Discord to be part of the class. Brightspace will have all of your assignments and your lectures and your essays. Your exams will be on Brightspace. Any like urgent reminders I will upload through Brightspace, which you will get emailed about. Brightspace will have everything. So you do not need Discord, but I highly recommend that you use it, especially for quick questions and discussions and current events and the small reminders. Please be diligent, checking your email and Brightspace. Failure to check these online communications does not excuse a delay in assignments. Not checking your email or Brightspace does not excuse not knowing that we have an essay, especially because I will remind you of it via lecture, via Brightspace, via Discord, and Brightspace will send you reminders up to 7 days before. You'll get an email in the morning. Essay 1 is due in 7 days. Essay 1 is due in 5 days, and you'll get that every single morning. There's no reason you should miss these things. If you know that you have to miss something ahead of time, please let me know. Missing it and then coming to me afterwards doesn't work. Just tell me that you're going to miss it. Learning outcomes, you should be able to identify and understand the institutions and principles of American government, the functioning and relationship of the institutions and the government together, the interaction of political culture and opinion and their influence on our process, and then the issues and challenges of American government. We do have a textbook. It is Keeping the Republic, Power and Citizenship. I have it. We will use it. Any text that we use, that may be the Federalist Papers, those will all be uploaded to Brightspace, so you will have those. In terms of contacting me, you obviously have my email. I prefer that you use my Akron email, but you can use both. Our baseline should be about 24 hours for a response. I will get back to you within 24 hours. I hope that you can get back to me within 24 hours. This does not include weekends. If you email me on a Saturday night, I can't promise I'll get back to you before Monday morning. I will never email you on a weekend unless it's urgent and I have to. Um, if for some reason you email me and I do not respond, feel free to email again on that same thread. Like, hey, you missed this. Answer me. That's perfectly acceptable. In terms of returning grades to you, I hope to have your grades back within a week of the due date. So if it's due on Monday, by the next Monday, I should have your grade back to you. If for some reason this isn't possible, I will be in contact. I will let you know. However, this is subject to change. Like your essays will probably take longer than your homework assignments that are 12 questions. The essays likely do take longer. In my experience, they've taken me about 2 weeks. I'm in a PhD program now. It may take a little longer, but I will get your grades back to you as soon as possible, and I will be in contact if it's taking longer than a week and why it's taking longer than a week. If you email me, please include your full name, the course number, identifying information, like let me know who you are and why you're emailing me. This is our grade scale. Questions about it, let me know. Here's what the course looks like. We have a final exam. This final exam is 20% of your grade. It's 200 points. You have 3 in-class exams. These are 100 points each. So in total, you have 4 exams. 3 in class, and then your final. Your final is worth double of the other ones. You have 2 essays, 150 points each. On the rubrics for the essays that I give you that are laying out like how you get your points and what the formatting is and the questions you should be answering, that's only out of 100 points. That's because that extra 50 is if the citations are wrong, or if your formatting isn't correct, or if you were late, or if you're not using punctuation, like for discretion points. The rubric gives you 50, or the rubric gives you 100, and then I give you the remaining 50. I like to think about it like you get 150 off the top, and then I take away points, however you prefer to look at it. You have 3 assignments, I call them. They're bigger, 50 points each, and then you have 2 little homeworks. One of them is a pre-course quiz. I just want to know what you know before we get started. And then the last one is basically review for your final homework or your final exam. It's your final homework and review of your final exam. You will get rubrics for all of your essays. Exams are multiple choice. There's multiple choice A, B, C, and D. There's true, false. And then your final exam will have basically you pick one of 2 options: independent and dependent variables, correlation, causation, and you just pick one of the 2. There are no short answer, there are no essays. Your assignments and homeworks are functionally graded for completion. I expect that you are actually doing the work, and I reserve the right to deduct points if it's incomplete, or if I'm noticing that you're not answering the questions fully, if you're not using detail. If you generally didn't care while you were doing it, I will take points off. Here's our course policy. I understand that you are now responsible for juggling multiple roles and commitments. You are likely an employee, a community member, a caregiver, maybe even a parent or guardian. I do not want this class to be a burden. I really just want you to understand how our government works. Our singular civic duty is to be informed on how it works. Primarily, you should be able to vote, especially with this presidential election coming up. If something is causing an issue for you, please just communicate. I promise I'm understanding. I've been a student. I'm still a student. I know how that works. I do expect that you participate. I expect that you give effort in our assignments and our exams. I expect if you have questions that you contact me about them. I feel like that's pretty generic, pretty typical of most classes. Um, Obviously, the electronic policy is different since this class is pre-recorded. Um, I hope that you're paying attention, but you can just rewatch it if for some reason you need to. Assignments should be completed before they are due. If for some reason you can't, you should contact me before the due date. Contacting me after the assignment is missing to tell me you had something happening is not gonna work. You gotta tell me beforehand. We can talk about it, we can adjust, we can give extensions. If you've already missed it, you're a little too late. Um, our tests will be administered via Brightspace. It will be proctored. Sorry, not sorry. Um, I don't do this to make things harder for you. I don't do this because I want to test your memorization. I do this because I want you to genuinely know how our system works. And unfortunately, I have to give you grades in some way or manner. If you have to make up an exam, we can do a makeup exam. If you would rather not do a makeup exam, we can also discuss you writing an essay. Just let me know. Again, whole big section on classroom etiquette. Let's not be rude. Let's not be disrespectful. We're not using logical fallacies. If you use a logical fallacy, your argument is essentially null and void. I will call you out on it. Conversation ends. If you don't know what they are, you should look them up. You should know what they are before you talk about politics. Obviously, please do not cheat or plagiarize. That's why we have proctoring. Plagiarizing your essays, I have a checker and I can see if you plagiarized. Putting something in quotation marks and then not citing it is plagiarism. Just putting it in quotation marks is not enough. If you for some reason need to appeal a grade, here are the steps to do so. First and foremost, you should come to me. We can talk about this. I've never had this be an issue before. If it is, come to me first. If we do that, if we talk about it and we cannot come to a resolution, then here are the following steps. You would email these help emails. Here are all of the university services and the university policies. You can read these on your own time, and then we have a schedule. This is what our schedule generally looks like. I have the week lined up with what we will be lecturing on that week, and then all of your assignments and homeworks. I have the day that they are due. They're all due by midnight. So Friday, September 6th at 11:59. I think it's 11:59 your time. It may be 11:59 my time because I made it in my time. If it's in your time, that's great. If it's in my time, it's even better for you because then technically it's not due until 3 a.m. your time. Um, if you have questions, just let me know. I can't tell because obviously like everything is set in my time. But if you want to let me know, let me know. So here's what our class looks like. We're going to start with our introduction and then the founding and citizenship, um, media, federalism. Your exams will generally have 3 lectures per exam. So exam 1 will go over the introduction, the founding, and citizenship. Exam 2 will have media, federalism, and Congress. This shouldn't be here. I don't know why this is here. Obviously, it's not February. I'll fix that. I'll fix that. I've also noticed, if you look, the PowerPoints have like different themes, and I match the themes. So the first 3 PowerPoints have the same theme, they'll be on exam 1. The next 3 PowerPoints have a different theme, they'll be on exam 2. If for some reason you ever get confused, you can use that as a guideline. Here's what it looks like. Why is this funny? I'll fix this. So the above, just a disclaimer, the above schedule is a general outline. It is subject to change. I can alter deadlines and the schedule. Topics are tentative and we may need to move things around. If I change anything, I will tell you ahead of time. If we need to, I will never push something up. I will never make a homework or a test earlier than originally scheduled. It will only ever be pushed back. We will only ever move it backwards to give you more time. I'll never take away time from you. But if they have to change, I will tell you in advance. So that's what we got for the syllabus. This is obviously on Brightspace. If you have more questions, feel free to email me. What we're going to do now is go over the Discord a little bit. Here's what our Discord looks like. We have like a welcome section. I don't think we're going to use that very much. There's a section for notes. I don't think we're going to use that very much, but you can share them if you have to. Then we have a general, a homework help one specifically for news articles that I will put in if I think they're interesting. I hope you would do the same. And then anything like generally off topic, use your discretion for that. The link to join this Discord is already on Brightspace. So now I will show you our Brightspace page. If you go to Brightspace and you scroll down, this will show you your courses. I obviously only have yours. You'll probably have a few others. This is ours. Okay, so if you come to our main page, I have the teacher version. You'll have the student version. All of our stuff is in here. Here's our Discord link. You can just copy this in and join the Discord. And you'll be able to add it. If you go up here to content, this is where you'll find all of our things. So the syllabus and schedule is in here. Any of the lecture recordings I'll upload here. Our PowerPoints are already uploaded, all of them through the rest of the semester. Your homeworks, those are also already uploaded. All of your things are in here. Your essays include your rubrics as well as the APA format. Your study guides for every exam, including the final, and then any additional resources. So we have maybe some cool photos I use, or when we talk about gerrymandering, I have some maps, little handouts on the checks and balances, the prisoner's dilemma. This is a possible debate that we may be able to do. I'm still figuring that out. So anything we use in class, anything you see in the PowerPoints, they will be in here. If they're not, but they'll be in the PowerPoint. So you can get them in the PowerPoint. You can also get them as a separate handout if you'd like to print them out and write on them, use them to study, however you feel the need. All of your assignments are already uploaded here with the due date. It says 11:59 my time. I'm pretty sure that means it's 3:59, aka 4 a.m. your time. I'm not going to change that. I'm not awake at 4 a.m. It doesn't really matter. But here are all your assignments, all of your due dates. Our very first homework is due on September 6th. So you can click on these and it will show you what, I have the teacher version, sorry. So you click on these, it will show you a little description of what I expect from you, any attachments, if it needs a rubric, or in this case, there is a Google quiz. You can also just fill it out on a Word doc and turn it in, and then the Dropbox. These are in order by due date. Your grades are up here. This will show your grades. I can't click on that because I have your grades. Class list. If you need to, for some reason, contact someone in the class or you need to contact me, you can find emails there. I hope you use a Discord for that, but your own discretion. Yeah, that should be about everything. If you have issues with Brightspace, please let me know. That's all we got for the intro. So I'll close everything out and we will start our lecture. I'd hope that you would join the Discord within the first couple of days, just so we can be in touch if we have to. But I guess I'll give you like a week before I'll give you a reminder. I can see how many people are in it. I can also, for the record, see when you guys join the page, like the Brightspace page. I can see when you're looking at the assignments or when you're looking at the lectures. I can see when you watch these. So, like, don't try to lie. Don't say that you didn't see it. I can see that you saw it. Um, that's about it. That's all I got. So, basics of government. Usually I would say like questions, thoughts, concerns, but obviously you can't respond to me, so there's no point. Um, all right. So this is obviously our first theme. The first 3 lectures that will be on your first exam will all follow this theme. Here's what we got. Why is it like cut off? You guys see that? That's funny. Okay. Anyway, so we're going to talk about what is politics and what is government, like by definition. We'll also talk about the political theories and systems, the history of American democracy, and then American trends and beliefs. Here are a couple of definitions. Politics is the who gets what, when, and how, a process of determining power and resources in a society without recourse or violence. That's key. That's a question on your exam. Without recourse or violence. This is what people mean when they talk about politics is everywhere, not just in government. Like, there are still politics in the university or in your school system. There are politics in your household, right? Like, who's buying the groceries and what groceries are you buying? Who makes the grocery list? There are politics in clubs and organizations and social groups that you join. Politics is everywhere. This is not just in government. The key here being without recourse or violence. When things become recourse or violence, that is less politics. We think about stuff like gaining our independence, right? The revolution. That's not really politics in the terms of how it works, right? That was a decision that was made and then basically forced upon England, which is fine. It's just different. And then we talk about power. Power is the ability to control or influence the way that others act, especially to do what you want. And everyone has power of some sort, right? So, being the teacher, I have power over you to teach you what I want to teach. And you have to do assignments in a certain way. You have to answer certain questions. But you also have power over me, right? If for some reason you all band together and decide to purposely fail your first exam, that could reflect poorly on my teaching style. Obviously, some people have more power than others, but everyone has power in some way. And then the last one is government, which is an organizational system for exercising authority over a body of people. There are 2 definitions that come with this. This is authority and then popular sovereignty. We'll talk about these a lot. Authority is power recognized as legitimate, and then popular sovereignty is the authority of a state and government created and sustained by consent of the citizenry. That sounds familiar, it should, right? Of the people, by the people, for the people. the United States government, our democracy, has power because it was created by and sustained by consent of its people. The revolution was not that, right? We didn't like how the British were ruling us. We no longer consented to that. We had a revolution. We were not under their rule any longer. Moving on, we're going to talk a little bit more about power. Power is obviously a means to an end, right? Power is not an action within itself. You want something and you use your power to get there, to reach your end goal, to achieve what you want achieved. It allows political actors to affect outcomes, so they play politics to govern effectively, right? If we want a bill passed, we're going to play politics. You don't go and beat someone on the floor of Congress to get them to vote for your bill. That's not going to work. No one wants to get hit on the floor of Congress. So you go to them and you negotiate. You play politics. You say, hey, maybe we'll add funds for a bridge for your district. Or if you vote for this bill, I'll vote for that bill, whatever it may be. But you're playing politics to get your support to govern effectively without violence. We're not beating people to get what we want. It doesn't work like that. There are just a couple of examples of power battles. COVID-19 was a massive power battle. The Mar-a-Lago raid, any voting laws, voting restrictions, the number of polling locations in the state, Obamacare, abortion, and gun control. All of these things are power battles, and a lot of them are power battles both within the federal government and between the state and the federal government. So stuff like abortion, right? When Roe v. Wade was overturned, the primary messaging there was that it had become a state's issue. So states could decide whether they wanted it to be legal or illegal, or if they had bans on certain time limits, or if there were exceptions, right? Like that all was placed in, the states. Stuff like the Mar-a-Lago raid is much more federal, right? That was the executive branch versus the FBI, the bureaucrats, versus essentially our legislative branch. Not really, but it was very federal. So a lot of these things are federal versus federal government. A lot of them are also or just state versus federal government. And we'll talk more later about the difference between those two things, like what federal government is and what state government is. But you should know that it's just the breaking up of government, right? So we have a president, and then we have the US Congress, and then we have like the US Supreme Court. That's our federal government. But if you go down and you just look at Ohio government, we have a governor. We have Governor DeWine. And we also have an Ohio House, an Ohio Congress, and then an Ohio Supreme Court. They're not directly related, right? The president doesn't pick the governor of Ohio. The governor of Ohio doesn't pick the president. These are separate levels of government, but they each have their own power. We're going to talk a little bit now about political systems. So we have political systems, and then we have economic systems. And these are different things. We should be aware of them. So I'm going to give you the 4 top political systems. We have democracy, which is our very obvious first one, is our system. It is a government vesting power in the people based on popular sovereignty, right? You get to be president because you are elected. You get to serve in Congress because you are elected. Citizens are giving that power to the leaders. Now, the US is a representative democracy. You'll often hear it called a republic. This is because we have an electoral college, and we'll talk about this a little more later on in the semester. But generally, right? We do not directly elect our president. If you look at numbers from like the 2016 election, technically, right, Hillary Clinton received more votes than President Trump did. But President Trump ended up being President Trump. And he did that through the Electoral College. That's why we have a republic. We also do not elect any of our like Supreme Court or any federal judges. Those are chosen by the president. So we elect directly our representatives. That is in your state Congress or your federal Congress. We do not directly elect the president. We also do not elect our judges. That's why we're not a direct democracy. There's also the idea of a social democracy. And I put this in political systems because I think it aligns more with the political system, but it does hybrid the economic system of socialism with a governmental system of democracy. Very few states claim this to be their actual system. Most states have a genuine democracy and then a different economic system. A social democracy creates economics and government into one thing. The third one is an authoritarian government. State holds all the power. So when you think about a monarchy or a theocracy, fascism, or a totalitarianism, that is authoritarian. So they have a king or they have a religious leader. The UK, right? That's a monarchy. That's more authoritarian. Now, in recent years, the monarchy isn't actually making rules. They serve more as a figurehead. The UK has a parliament that is elected. They have a prime minister that is elected. So they're less authoritarian. In countries like Afghanistan or in Iran, where the country is ruled by a religious leader, right? They're based on their religious ideas, and that leader is a theocrat. They're controlling everything. And then the last one is anarchy. Anarchy is a political system. It is the absence of government and laws. In an anarchy, there is no true freedom because your rights or your freedom can be usurped by anyone. Think about it in terms of, right, your right to live. In an anarchy, where there are no governments and there are no laws, anyone has the right to do anything. So I have the right, not me, right? Someone might have the right to kill you. And in that case, they would be usurping your right to life. And there's no pushback. There's no punishment. There's no crime. This isn't considered a crime because there is no government and there are no laws. Obviously, when we think about politics, groups use these to attack each other, right? We see political parties calling each other socialists and fascists and totalitarianisms. They're using these to attack each other because, number one, our general public does not have a base understanding of this. And number two, to scare people, to scare voters into voting how they would like them to vote. Next, we have our economic systems. So generally, first, you have to understand what economics is. Economics is the production and distribution of a society's material resources and services. Nothing to do with government. This is not government. This is not elections. This is not cabinet positions, although sometimes it gets treated like that. This is our, right? You go to your nail tech, gas, how much a bag of chips are at a grocery store or a haircut. Economics. We have so many bags of chips, right? Supply and demand. How many people want bags of chips? That's economics. It's not government, not related. There are three main types of economic systems. The first is going to be capitalism, which I'm sure you hear a ton about. This is capital being your actual money or your means to make money. If you know how to do nails, if you are an esthetician, that is a means of making money. That is a capital. Having assets, right? If you have an heirloom diamond ring, that is also capital. That is worth something. You can sell it to make money. Any capital is owned privately, personally owned. And the market determines production, distribution, and price decisions. There are two types of capitalism. There is regulated capitalism, where the government has some hand in this, often through procedural guarantees. And then there's laissez-faire capitalism. The government has no hand in this. We have a little bit of both. When you think about stuff like the price of insulin being capped, that is a form of regulated capitalism, right? The government is getting involved to cap the price of insulin. When you think about Walmart and Giant Eagle selling the same bag of potato chips for a difference of 30 cents, that's laissez-faire. There's no government involved in the price of chips. That's just the company, right? The private company deciding how much they want to get for that bag of chips. The second one is socialism. Again, I'm sure you hear a lot about this. The idea of socialism is there is a democratically elected state, and they determine the production, distribution, and price decisions. But citizens still have personal property. So, in this way, we can think about states that have governments, right, that are elected, democratically elected, and they determine the price of a house, right? No houses can be more expensive than $300,000. You can still buy that house. You can buy that house for $300,000 and then you own that house. But you cannot be charged more than $300,000 for that house. That's the idea of socialism. And then the idea of communism, which again, we hear a ton about, especially nowadays, is all economic resources are publicly owned. Materials, services, publicly owned and controlled by government. The idea being there is no personal property. A massive misconception here is that the government owns it. The government is controlling your house. That's not the case. It's publicly owned, which means the people own it. In most situations where countries and states have claimed communism, it's not real communism, right? Because the idea being is that the state is owning it. In true capitalism, it is publicly owned. And there are a few examples of that in the US. The number one example being like our national parks. Our national parks are managed by government, right? We have park rangers, we have fire lookouts, people who are taking care of them. But the government does not own these. The public owns them. And that's why you can just go into any national forest or a national park and you could just camp. A lot of places you need a permit. That is not because it's owned by the government. That is because there is a limit of how many people can go in. Especially in the summer where wildfires are very prevalent. But it's publicly owned, funded by taxes. Okay, I'm going to give a little breather. Now we're going to talk about political theories. There are 4 main theories I want to touch on. Realism and idealism are direct contradictions of each other, and then social contract and domino are separate. So realism is the idea that power is controlling politics. So politicians, and countries are using their positions, striving to maximize their power. Think about situations like the war in Ukraine, right? Putin invaded Ukraine primarily because he wanted to maximize his power. He wanted more access to oil, or he wanted water access, or he wanted more land or more people, whatever it was that Putin wanted. When he invaded Ukraine, it was the idea of trying to maximize his power. Idealism, on the other hand, is that the morality of human behavior is driving society. So people are born good and reasonable, and we're doing things for moral reasons. What's a good example of this? You could think about, it's a great example, putting the cart back, right, in the parking lot of a grocery store. You don't really have to. You're not going to get in trouble if you don't. There's no rules saying that you have to. A lot of people don't. But we have a general societal etiquette that you should put the cart in the little cart corral. And an indication of who you are as a person might be based on whether or not you put the cart back in the cart corral. That's the idea of idealism. Morality, right? It is a good thing. It is a kind thing or a nice thing or whatever it is you're doing. You're doing it to be reasonable and good because of your morals. And next we have social contract. I'm sure you've heard about this. This is the idea that society is based on an agreement between government and citizenry in which people give up some rights in exchange for the protection of others. Right? We do not have anarchy. We do not have a government with no laws. You cannot just usurp any rights. We have social contract. So when we created our government, we said, yes, government, you can take some of our rights, right? You can charge taxes, and you can be in control of our laws, and you can tell us what things are illegal or criminal in exchange for some protections, right? The protection being that if another country invades, we are protected. The protections being if someone robs you, right, they'll get punished. Maybe they take your car, they steal your car, you'll get your car back and they'll go to jail, whatever it is, right? We're giving up some rights in exchange for the protection of others. Generally, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And then our last one is the domino effect. This is the effect generated when a particular event triggers a chain of similar events. We see this happening a lot with like social stuff. Legalizing marijuana, same-sex marriage, vaccination mandates, abortion laws, all of this kind of stuff. This is all domino effect. One state legalized marijuana, now a bunch of states have. One state legalized same-sex marriage, and then all the other states did, or a lot of states did, and then the US did. You can even see this in stuff more small scale, more bureaucracy, more private, like universities. When COVID happened, or like immediate, when COVID was first happening, every school was still open. Every college was still open. I remember I had just got back. I was in college, and I had just gotten back from spring break. And everyone was talking about this like weird sickness that's going around, and like, what are they going to do about it? Maybe we're going to get a vaccine or whatever. And then within 3 or 4 days, a week or two, school was closed. And we got an email that you had to be out of the dorms by the end of the night. You had to be moved out completely. It was crazy. No school closed until Ohio State closed. And when Ohio State closed, then all the other schools started closing. That's domino effect. Here's social contract theory a little bit more. We have three main people. So we have John Locke, who believed the idea that a legitimate government requires people consenting to it, and if the government breaks that contract, people can form a new one, right? We didn't like how Britain was governing us, so we created a new government. That comes from John Locke. And then we have Jean Rousseau. He's French, and his idea is that man's natural state is primitive, and individuals preserve themselves by abandoning claims to natural rights. So his big idea is that we're all primitive, right? We're all Neanderthals, essentially. And we preserve ourselves by giving up some natural rights. And then we have Thomas Hobbes. And his idea is that government is not a divine right. People agree to be governed for protection. This idea of a divine right comes from the monarchy primarily, where the idea of royalty and having an heir is because they believed that you were born royal, you were born into the family you were born in, because it was God's choice. God chose you to be a ruler. It's called divine right. Thomas Hobbes said, no, that's not how this works. People agree to be governed because they want protection from these primitive desires. I'm going to move through this pretty quickly, since usually it is like a discussion. The history of American democracy, we obviously know, comes from three main sources. The first one being ancient Greece, where they had our first functioning Athenian democracy. And then the Middle Ages, right? The divine right of kings. You were born to be a ruler. You were born as an heir to this family because you were going to rule the country. And people disagreed with this, right? They didn't like being ruled by a king. And then the Enlightenment, or the Age of Reason, which is, rather than divine right of kings, right, that was discredited. And now citizenship confers rights and responsibilities. In order to be a member of society, in order to be a citizen of the country you live in, there are rights and responsibilities that come with that. Voting is a main one that we derived. James Madison, one of our framers, one of our founders, he feared pure democracy because people would create factions and they didn't trust each other, right? We're very individualistic. We see that happening now. This is why we do not directly elect our president. This is why we do not elect the Supreme Court. We only elect Congress. It's because James Madison feared pure democracy, creating factions, political parties, and trusting other people to act in your best interest, not just their best interest. That's where politics comes in. The idea of working together, or working as a whole, or using power as a means to an end to get what you want, rather than what's best for everybody. The idea of realism versus idealism. Are you working for the good of everyone? That's idealistic. Or are you using your power to get what you want, to have more power? That's realism. We have a couple of trends and beliefs I want to touch on. There are two main views. There's Madison's biggest view, which is that human nature is self-preserving and individual participation should be limited, right? Too much democracy is a bad thing because of factions, or because you're only working in your own self-interest. And then we have the Republican virtue, which is not Republican in today's political party Republican. Different Republican, which is the faith in a citizen's ability to act virtuously, not for a personal good, but for the common good. So Madison's view is much more realistic, where the Republican virtue is much more idealistic. Just a couple of rhetorical questions. Which view do you subscribe to? What are examples of both? for you to think about on your own time. And then what is being American? So we have rights, and we have liberties, and then we have laws. What is the difference? So there are two kinds of rights. You should know the difference between them. Civil rights are guarantees of equal social opportunities and protections under the law. This is the idea of no discrimination, okay? You cannot, you cannot not sell me a house just because I'm a woman, right? This is Title IX. Protections under the law. The law says you cannot not sell me a house because I'm a woman. Pregnancy is a big one here, right? You can't fire someone because they're pregnant. It's a protection under the law. The law is protecting you from that. And then we have natural rights, which are not dependent on the law. It doesn't matter what your law says. It doesn't matter what country you live in. These are things given to you. Freedom, equality, the right to preserve your life, not dependent on the law. And then we have civil liberties, which are freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution. So civil rights are protections. Civil liberties are given to you, right? You have the freedom of speech. You have the freedom of religion. You have the freedom of press, of assembly, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, all of your amendments. Things given to you by the Constitution explicitly. You can do this. A civil right is a protection, right? You cannot do this because of discrimination. And then natural law is more fundamental, it's more moral. Again, independent of man-made laws. It doesn't matter what country you live in. It doesn't matter what your laws say. You have the right to life. There's often a confusion between natural rights and natural law, oftentimes because they're used interchangeably, and I think that's fair. They're very, very similar. The key here being that natural law is more moral, it's more fundamental, and oftentimes it precedes man-made laws, right? So you have the right to life, therefore there's a law against murder. Whereas a natural right is not dependent on the law and does not follow a law, it is separate. If you have questions, let me know. And then just another rhetorical question here. When is revolution justified? Right? Our revolution against Britain is justified. But do we only think that because it's already in the past and we won and we saw how it worked out? In a lot of situations, oftentimes a revolution happens and maybe someone loses, right? Someone has to lose. Is it justified then, even though they lost? Or what takes a country to the point of revolution? In our case, it was taxes. In a lot of other cases, it's religious freedom. In some cases, it's a monarchy. What pushes a country to have a revolution? And who decides whether it's justified? The people? The winners? The government? People in the future? Right? Who's deciding that? That's all I have for this first lecture. So thank you for listening. Thank you for catching up. Feel free, please join the Discord. Feel free to email me with any questions. I will make sure that the link for our first quiz is uploaded, although it's not due until September 6th. That's next week. Other than that, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Thanks.